Thank you. And tonight's invocation is by Dylan Austin with the LifeSpring Church. Thank you for coming.
Mayor Chadwick, Council, thank you for having me tonight. I'd like to invite everybody here just to join me in prayer. Most High God, I just pray tonight. I pray most of all for a special blessing upon everyone here. Pray for your guidance and your wisdom to be very clear and obvious in tonight's discussions and decisions being made here at City Hall. Father, you know the state of our country, that we are very divided right now. So I pray that a spirit of unity can be sparked right here in Star. Father, that we can look across the aisle and just see that we're all people trying to do our best. So I pray that despite disagreements that may come, I pray that this council and this city can honor you, God, and that the decisions are made that are truly uplifting to you and to the people of this community. May we close a divide and become united through you. It's in the one holy name of Jesus I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Roll call.
Hershey,
Here.
Wheelock,
Here.
Salmonson, Nielsen.
Present. All right. Thank you. We got Ms. Conley here tonight as our clerk. Thank you for coming tonight. Jacob's at another meeting, so she is here. So we're going to do presentations tonight. The first one here is our domestic violence proclamation. We kind of piggyback on what Dylan said a little bit. We do have some challenges right now in our society with folks with a lot of mental health stress and issues right now. I just ask everybody to look out for each other, look out for your neighbors, family and stuff. And if you do see some challenges, please get them help on both sides of the aisle. So that'd be awesome. So I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas domestic violence is defined as abusive behavior in a personal relationship that gives one member control and power over another through physical, emotional, sexual, economic, or psychological actions or threats. And whereas an estimated 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will face domestic abuse in their lifetime. And in 2022, there were 5,104 calls for service related to domestic violence and sexual assault in Ada County. And whereas a range of services and programs exist throughout the Treasure Valley, providing safety, healing, and freedom from domestic abuses and sexual assault, including forensic exams and medical care, secure shelters, court advocacy, counseling, childcare, as well as case management. And whereas the City of Star is an important partner with the Women's and Children's Alliance and Faces of Hope to provide a safety net of crisis services and create a community where individuals thrive in safe and healthy relationships. Now, therefore, I, Trevor A. Chadwick, Mayor of the City of Star, Idaho, do hereby join national and local officials in proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Star, signed this 19th day of September, 2023. Again, guys, just look out for each other. If you see something happening, get them help. Reach out to our law enforcement agencies, to our fire, whoever it's got to be to get anybody that's experiencing that some assistance, because that's important. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to item 4B. Chief Hessing has our monthly report with the Star Police Department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, City staff. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to report the August report, police report to you. I appreciate the comments about domestic violence. I'll go through this report and kind of show how many we had throughout the month of August, but it is, if you do see something, we would appreciate letting people know. It's not only is it scary for people who are involved in that, but also us responding to it. They're the most volatile calls we go to. So we'd appreciate any help we can get getting in front of that and helping people in their relationships there. So to start off, I did some numbers on this. If you look at the 2023 year to date, it's 173 crimes per thousand. We're averaging about 21 and a half crimes a month. So if we stay on par with that, I did a little calculation. We're looking at about 14.9 crimes per thousand. for the month or the year of 2023, which is actually lower than last year, which is good. But we can always strive to get it even lower. So just kind of give you an idea, that's where we're kind of standing there. We had 5 person crimes, which included 3 domestic violence crimes. Now these are ones that we actually filed to the prosecutor's office for charges or make an arrest on. We had 1 lewd conduct of the minor and 1 battery. That was all the person's crime for the month of August. We had 10 property crimes and then 11 society crimes. Our citizen calls for service was 326. That's when somebody calls us and asks for help or wants us to respond if there's an issue going on. Our proactive policing total is 1,128 calls. We're looking about 3.4 calls per proactivity level.
That was last year's numbers, those two.
Oh, I
Sorry.
apologize. I highlighted the wrong one. You're right. 352 citizens calls. Thank you, Mayor. 352 citizens calls for service for month of August, and then 2005 proactive calls. So
I just want to give you credit because that's a lot of proactive.
that's a lot of proactive calls. I appreciate that. That looks a little better. I was wondering why it's a little low there compared to the month before that. So I appreciate it. As I go through the select call types, these are the calls we go to. Again, differing from the actual crimes. These are ones that we go to that's reported as this, but as we get there, we find out that it actually wasn't a crime or it's something different. For instance, if you look at the domestic violence, we responded to 7 in August, where only 3 of those were actually charged with a crime. So we did respond to 7 different disputes that came out as that, which is pretty close to a little higher than the last 3 months prior to it, but not too high out there. The one thing that I did point out, or I want to point out, is the crisis mental health calls. We did bounce to 14 calls this last month. I know the mayor just spoke about people going through mental health crisis and being there for another. Again, there's a lot of help out there, a lot of resources. Ada County Sheriff's Office has a website up that you can go on there. You can get a lot of resources out there for people who are struggling, and a lot of those resources are free. So I'd highly encourage anybody who's struggling with different things to reach out. And we're always willing to point them to those resources and help. Juvenile activity did jump up to 20 this last month. I'm guessing that's with the schools being in session. Our Star Middle School SRO there dealing with more kids. Traffic stops went from 271 in July to 415 in August. And then welfare checks did jump. Again, welfare checks are usually when somebody is worried about another person, whether mental health illness or medically, and they haven't seen them for a while, they'll call us. It did jump from 12 to 24. Number of arrests for the month of August was 7 with 1 DUI arrest. 14% of those arrests were drug related. And then just looking at the code 3 response times for the city of Star for the month of August, we're 1 minute, 58 seconds to get there when somebody calls for code 3. And or when somebody calls for an emergency and we run lights and siren to get to them. We had 3 of those and 7 outside of the city of Star. So all in all, we were busy in the month of August. I think we are doing a good job on keeping on top of what's going on out there. But is there any questions from City Council or the Mayor?
Any questions? Mayor, Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, so I understand the report. The minute 58 is inside our city boundaries, and that was 3 responses. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That answers my question. I was curious what percentage of the calls were code 3 versus, because you have 352 calls for service. Only 3 of those are emergency.
Yeah, only 3 of those came out as an emergency call. Somebody called 911 and dispatch usually they'll tone it out as I would call it, but it goes over the radio as a kind of a beeping over the radio, toning it out. Then we need to run code 3 to something. And so that's what that is. And that's lights. And when I say code 3, I should explain it because I know it's police jargon, but it's when we're trying lights and siren, we're getting people to pull over so we can pass by quicker and get there. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions of Chief Essing? All right, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, tonight we also have Chief Tominski with Midstar Fire to come and talk about the fire department.
City Council, Mayor, and staff, thanks for having me. This is first, we'll continue to do these each month. And so I brought the information that is from January 1st to August 31st. So the fire calls, or brush fires, grass fires, mixed grass is 17. Actual building fires, which are houses, garages, shops, storage sheds, any kind of a building is 17. Cooking fires was just 1. Motorhome fires, recreational vehicles, 2. Other grass fires, which are not the bigger grass fires, the smaller, just like somebody's backyard or something like that, were 27. Outside rubbish fires, basically illegal burns or whatever, was 9. And other fires was 27, which gives us a total of 100.
And that's year to date, right?
That's year to date.
Okay.
Yes.
I was
I'll
thinking
start doing
August, holy
monthly.
cow.
I'll start doing monthly after.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
EMS calls, the total was 505, which on this way it reports EMS calls excluding vehicle accidents with injuries was 446. Vehicle accidents with injuries was 31. Water rescue 2 and other EMS calls 26 is a total of 505. Hazardous conditions where it's like gas leaks or hazmat calls, oil spills, gas spills, anything like that, had a total of 34. And then service calls. So these are the ones that Chief Hessing would say were non-code. All the rest of them are code 3 for us. But non-code calls like animal rescues, lockouts, public service, smoke detectors, just assisting somebody and maybe couldn't get up by themselves. That's non-emergent. They're not hurt. That's just a service call. And then other public service, that was 172. That includes the duck rescues.
We had a few of those this year.
Yeah. Good intent calls or calls that we were dispatched to and found nothing, or dispatched and canceled en route was 151. False calls. So like alarm activations, like a school, a fire alarm goes off and they evacuate and it wasn't a drill. They'll still call us to reset. Same with a grocery store or any business that has alarms. False calls, 17 with a total of 57, which gives us 1,028. And this is just in Star Fire Protection District. The total incidents at the top right, you can see that going 2021, 783, 2022 was 942, and so far, or 22, 2023, 1,028 so far. The fire calls have gone up. EMS calls are going to be up. We're going to have quite a few more calls before the end of the year, and other calls are up. And then the box right below that where it says response district, other is our neighbors. It could be Caldwell, it could be Meridian, it could be Eagle, Middleton, because we respond with them. We separated that out, which shows 210 responses to Middleton, and then 769 into Star. Below that is the average turnout time. And my ops chief put this together and he said that number is skewed because when the 2 stations that are in Star, the one at Kingsbury and the one here in Star, when they respond, one or the other, the other crew will jump in before they're dispatched. And that number is skewed because they have a 0 response time. By the time that they're dispatched, they're already en route. So there is no time. So he said he'll get that fixed for the next report, but it's probably in the 45 to 50-second range.
And that's the time to get their gear on and in the truck and out the door, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So when they respond before they're dispatched, because the call seems like something that's going to take more than 1 unit, they'll go ahead and get dressed and get in and go, and then they'll be dispatched to the call, or they'll check themselves into route, and it's a 0 response. There's a 0 turnout time because they're already in the vehicle and they're already going. So that's why it skews the number. The average unit response time is 8 minutes, 9 seconds. That's from the time that dispatch sends tones off to the time they arrive on scene. So we have some areas within our district that it takes almost 20 minutes to get to. And then we have areas in our district that are obviously right at the station or next door to it that are very short. But the average is 8 minutes and 9 seconds. The very bottom left is just kind of a pie chart of the percentage of calls, being 49% being EMS and hazardous conditions and service calls. It just kind of goes around 17, 15, 6. It's like 1% for others and then 10% for fire. And then finally, the bottom right is incident count per month. So you can see the slowest month is February, and so far our busiest month was June. The other information that he gave me late that's not on your report, which will be on the report next time, is total acres burned in grass fires was 58.21. It does not count the 20 or 30 acres that was burnt a couple days ago that there was social media pictures of us in Eagle above Hartley Road over here, Harvey Road, I guess it is. That is in our district, and that'll be added to the next time. The total property loss for Star Fire District year to date is $392,178. And the estimated content loss is $432,300. That's the end of my report, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Wheelock.
If you can scroll to the top one more time. If I looked at the incident reports and you're about on the response district, 769 or something like that. That's all coming out of this first fire station closest to the downtown Star.
No, that is both stations, 51 and 52. So it's Kingsbury and the one here in Star.
And you average about 2 calls a day.
Correct.
Okay. I just thought that was interesting, trying to see how that broke up in the report at the bottom with the 151 calls. Is that across all the other district as well with Middleton on the very bottom?
On the very
Scrolling down to the incident count per month.
in June,
Is that with everybody? Yeah. Just the 131,
correct? That is the entire.
everything,
Yeah.
I would assume.
So I made Dave do this report in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So when the mayor asked for it, he had to do captain interviews in Meridian all day. And he was like, "You need this when?" And I said, "Well, before you leave."
It's great. Don't get me wrong. I also wanted to tell you, it's awesome to see the ladder truck running through town now.
Yep.
Thank you for getting that ready and
Thank you
using
guys
It
for
was good.
the help with it. It's awesome. I like the train horn.
It's right. It's got a train horn on it.
That's kind of an East Coast thing. And some of the guys just thought, I mean, we need to change it out to air horns. But I'll tell you that air horns are so popular in all big rigs that people seem to be kind of immune to it. But when they are in Star and they hear the train horn, they pay attention.
Good.
Any other questions?
I just want, just real quick, I know, I think the, one of the news outlets put something out about garage fires and what that's a result of, batteries, I think. Is that correct?
There is,
Mostly?
the garages are a place where everybody stores everything. I've been to a lot of garage fires in my 30 years in the fire service, and a lot of it is gasoline or something flammable close to a gas water heater, car malfunction inside of somebody parks their car and didn't think there was anything wrong with it, and the next thing you know, the garage is on fire. Batteries, we just had an incident within Star that it was lithium ion batteries that started a garage fire. That garages are just like a storage unit for everything, right? And that's why we have had discussions as city staff in the fire district about adding to the code heat detector. As you close that fire door between the garage and the house, supposedly automatically closes. And you don't know until it is burning so well that it makes its way through the rubber gasket and gets into the house and sets off the smoke detector, which by that time, the garage is heavily involved. So we've been discussing putting that in the code. So we have a heat detector out there that would warn people, and their smoke detectors would go off and give them a reason to go into the garage and check before the fire gets as big as they get today.
So on that same note, I'll add, like, my parents actually lost their house due to a garage fire.
Mm.
They had a fire door that went to their house. And if there was some sort of, alarm,
Early
They-
detection.
yep, because by the time that they knew the fire was on, it was too late.
Yeah.
So they were lucky to get out and lost their home.
And so you're going to see that, I believe, October-ish timeframe or November, where we're going to, when we do some code updates, that's going to come part of our code. So on new houses, that'll be required to be put in those garages.
And
on
it's
the new
not a
houses.
huge expense for the builder to add that. I mean, it's a minimal amount. I want to say that I was told they're around $60. It's not like they're going to add a
Amazing.
huge amount to their.
Would that come with carbon monoxide detector required for that same space? Because to me, that would be a good place to add carbon monoxide into that same system.
It would be, but these are heat only.
But we could always look at.
You can
adding
always,
it.
you
If
can
you're gonna
always
do
add it. Problem
something.
is there's, like I mentioned, there's so much stuff stored in there that, I mean, there is still, we don't recommend it, but there is still people that will start their car and let it warm up in the garage.
That's the ones that don't make it out of the garage some mornings.
Some mornings they don't, you're right. But we would have a lot of alarms if we put them in there,
Mayor-
which is a good thing, but I think that would be an argument that people wouldn't want to put that in there because you'd have so many malfunctions of that because of what can be stored in your garage. But the heat detector just makes sense.
Yeah. We can discuss
It was
that.
worth talking about. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
We can
absolutely.
talk about it. Sean will take note. We'll discuss it. See what that looks like. Did you have something else there, Councilwoman?
Yeah, I did. So regarding the ambulance, like we have an ambulance, shelter right here in town. And I'm always curious on like how that works. If you live next door and have a medical emergency, call 911. Are people waiting? More than likely, they're waiting for the fire department, I'm guessing, rather than the ambulance to show up. Can you just explain that?
So it is a common question. Why does the fire truck go every time an ambulance goes? And the ambulance does the transport. The biggest reason is the reliability of the ambulance. I think that in Ada County, if I remember right, there's 14 ambulances that are on, 14 or 15. And they can all be busy at one time. So we have fire go to do the basic, get vitals, get information, do all the basic stuff. While sometimes an ambulance has to come from Eagle, or I mean, there's times where ambulances have to come from Meridian or even Boise because they're all busy. When station, I believe it's 8 in Meridian opens, which is by the new high school, they're going to put an ambulance in there. And what they're hoping is when the new Highway 16 is done, that'll make a fast response for them to be the backup ambulance in Star. And we have in Station 53, which is the Middleton downtown station, we have a Canyon County ambulance that is housed in there. And so what we're trying to do right now is get them to cross borders. And they do, but they're both busy, both ambulances. And it's Medic 3-8 in Star and it's Medic 5-3 in Middleton. And both of them get called out of their area to cover a void someplace else. So sometimes we have to wait for 2-6 to come from Eagle, and other times we have to wait for Medic 5-2 to come from Caldwell. So we're trying to get it to where that's more automatic for them to come. And it's been a fight that, it's not a fight. It's been a project that we've been working on for 10 years because the two CAD systems, and the one in Canyon County and the one in Ada County, do not talk to each other. So they have to intercom when somebody calls 911 to get the other dispatch agency to dispatch the ambulance. They can't, Ada County can't dispatch a Canyon County ambulance and vice versa. We're working on that. We're hoping to get that resolved with some new software that's coming up, some updates that are coming up. We have got it now where Canyon County and Ada County dispatches can dispatch all three of our fire stations. So that's a big step,
That's a good step, yeah.
because there was times when I first got to Star 10 years ago that there was a delay from transferring that call that were 10 to 15 minutes, which is not acceptable. Our goal is to respond to all emergencies in 5 minutes. We're not making that right now
Because of the distance.
because of the distance. By moving the fire station from this location to where it is, it does delay us to get to the east side of the district. That's why Station 55, one of the reasons Station 55 is planned over across from the church on Floating Feather is that, and then the growth that we have in that area as well. That'll help.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
You
All
bet.
right, any further questions of Chief?
Thank you, Chief.
But,
bet.
more than you bargained for.
Mayor
huh?
Chadwick.
It's all right.
Oh, you got one? Councilman Nielsen, you can't go anywhere. He's got. a
That's all right.
It's just been a great conversation. Just a couple things. Thank you. This is wonderful to have this report and these insights. It's great to kind of see that behind the scenes look at what matters to you guys and how you measure yourselves. And super important service, of course, in our city. Just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Along with the heat sensor in the garage, what is the cost impact to having it the sprinkler system put in there? Just, I mean, garages are so open and stuff. If in my mind, I'm thinking it's just some pipe and a couple of sprinklers. Is there a big cost to that too? Is that something we should be looking at?
Well, the sprinklers are always a hot topic. We have a good amount of water within the city of Star. So outside the city of Star, we have to bring our water with us. Our engines carry 1,000 gallons. Our ladder truck carries 500 gallons. But we can hook to a hydrant, and we have hydrants within the city that will produce anywhere from the minimum of 1,500 gallons a minute up probably closer to 4,000 gallons a minute. So we can put a lot of water in a hurry. The fire sprinklers are required when there is no water supply. The thing about the water tender is it's not always available. If we have 4 people staffing, was what we have 4 people staffing in downtown Star, and downtown Middleton, and 3 persons staffing at the Kingsbury station. The 2 water tenders that the districts together have are in the city. We have 4 person staffing. 1 person can jump in the water tender and bring the water, while the other 3 have to stay on the engine because it's a minimum of a 3-man engine company. You have to have 3. So outside, we always ask for, outside the city limits, we always ask for a water supply because that's what the state statute says that we can ask for. But in lieu of that, we will tell them that they can do away with the water supply if they'll put residential fire sprinklers in. The cost of what the NFPA standard recommends on a residential house, the minimum, all depends on the size, is how much water is required. But the minimum is 1,000 gallons a minute. So they put a well in that'll produce 1,000 gallons a minute for an hour. Will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's just the way it is. Residential fire sprinklers cost about $1.25 to $2 a square foot. And honestly, with all of the arguments that Victor and I have had through the years with people not wanting to spend the money to put fire sprinklers in, it is very close to the same cost of putting granite countertops in your house. So what's more important? We think life safety is more important. Some people argue and say their granite countertops. are
Man, I
more
haven't seen the
important.
granite.
But we do ask for it. We can't force them to do it because state statute says that we can't.
Yep.
But I would say that we're fairly successful.
If
Get them to put them in.
if you were to just consider the garage, not the entire residence, but just the garage.
I think the biggest expense to it is the initial system itself. The pipe that they put in and the sprinkler heads are not that expensive. So if you were to go through the expense of putting the backflows and the equipment it takes to set them off, they're set off by heat, but the piping for that to just put it in the garage, you might as well put it in the entire house because that is the most expensive part of it.
Got it. Thank you.
Are we good?
Yeah, and maybe this is for another time, but if we talked about putting sprinklers in the horizontal apartments that are coming to town.
So in any apartment, minus the ones that are close to us right here, the ones on the beside Bimart, the new ones that are put down at Highway 16, the ones that are on the other side of the fourplexes on the other side of 16 and Amazon Falls, right? They're all sprinkled.
He's referring to the American Star style, where it's a subdivision that's all apartment complex, all apartments, housing. They're individual units. I mean, that's what he was wondering if it's worth
see.
those.
Because renters,
Yeah,
Honestly, fire sprinklers are great everywhere. Statute says that we can't tell them to put it in. I think that we could do a city ordinance saying that we put them in all rental units. I just don't know. I don't know how that would go over.
we can take a look at it and go from there.
thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick, I'll
Councilwoman,
move that we approve item 5A consisting of the approval of claims.
okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second that.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Nielsen,
I
Salmonson,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Hey,
Hershey.
Aye.
That motion carries. Sorry that you have to do that with a raspy voice tonight. You got water?
I got water. It's the conference. Sorry.
Yeah, good. Awesome. We're going to move on to item 6A, the Idaho Humane Society Agreement. Fiscal year 23-24. If everybody's aware, we had approved in our budget to enter or to pay the Idaho Humane Society. Now we have the agreement here for it. There was a question that I had that I spoke with the representative today regarding licensing. It talks about them doing the licensing in this agreement. However, there's many different ways what that means. It's them licensing dogs, and when they get dropped off and they're not licensed, they would require them to be licensed before they get released. We can still do our licensing. So there's a lot of administrative side of that we'll still have to work out with the Humane Society just on the admin. It has nothing, doesn't impact the contract. We also are going to have a meeting with the Humane Society and Chief Hessing and ourselves, talk about some of the after hours stuff, because they do have people that work 24/7. But if they're not out here in that 8 to 6 window, if we have to respond, we have to figure out what's going to happen with that pet at that time or that pup. So, okay. So if you guys have any questions, we need to do a motion to allow me to execute this contract effective October 1.
Mayor Chadwick. So
Councilwoman?
thank you for mentioning those. That's something that I was wondering, but also I was curious just on the very beginning, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and third and fourth, whereas. That's the first time that I've seen those two paragraphs.
Third and fourth?
Yeah.
Which
And
one?
it's about the business, like working with the government of China and Israel, like boycotting Israel, that you wouldn't do it. It was just really curious. I was just,
That's a state of
never
Idaho
seen that.
legislative thing that they passed this last legislative session.
well, there's the last one was passed in 2021. But I guess the question maybe for Chris, does that make sense of the location of this? Does it matter? Or is it usually down later in the, let's
I
see,
guess what's the concern with it being in there, I guess is my thing.
is it in the proper place?
Does it matter where the whereases goes? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's it's fine where it is. Really, all it is background. It's not a. I mean, it's a state law. It's really not a contractual agreement between the city and the Idaho Humane Society. It's a state law, and it's just a reference that those statutes govern the contract. And so it's really not part of the contract between the city and the Humane Society. It's really just reference that. I mean, again, as you can see from the whereas clauses, the third one, public entities, the state, to include in contracts for services. So kind of any contract for services. So again, it's not specific to this. Same language in the fourth whereas. So I think this is the appropriate place for it.
Okay.
Fourth and fifth is what you threw me off when you said third and fourth,
I'm
and I was
sorry.
reading that first one. I'm like, what?
Okay.
But I got you. It's the Israel and the China thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen those statements or in any of our agreements. So do we need to include them? I think going forward, I don't know.
I think this is their agreement with us and they chose to include it with us. Chris, can you explain that?
Yeah, I agree. This is their document. It's not every contract or every services agreement. And so that's why we don't necessarily have it in all of them. I'd have to go back and look through the code section specifically to see what it's included in.
Because if it was like, my understanding is if it's over 100,000, it needs to be included in agreements.
Yeah, and
For
this
certain,
it's actually less than 100,000.
This
So I
is an
think-
$80-something contract.
Yeah, so it's just the Idaho Humane Society. I think it's just
You
included
leave
in
it,
the
we're
board
not-
report
I mean, it doesn't
documents.
impact our thing. We're not doing work with China, number
Right.
one, and we don't do stuff with Israel either.
I
So-
found it really interesting. Again, I've never seen it before and it stood out to me. And so I just wanted to bring it to the attention.
Can I ask a
Make sure it was
follow-up
okay.
question?
Go ahead.
Councilman Nielsen?
So understanding because it's not over 100,000, it's not necessary here, but if it were necessary, the way I read that is that it's a written certification. And so I don't know if being in the whereas section qualifies as written certification. And I'm not trying to doubt you, Chris. I just would like further clarification.
Well, let me ask a question. Is this going to impact our contract or not? Because to get clarification, we're supposed to start this contract in 2 weeks. And it doesn't.
Oh, I'm
impact-
just asking a question here tonight, Mayor.
Okay.
And
Chris?
we can still motion this tonight.
I was actually kind of going through because sometimes contracts, I don't remember if it's in this one, sometimes contracts will actually include the whereas clauses as there'll be a language in the body of the contract that says all the language in the whereas clauses is, deemed factual or deemed correct or part of the agreement. This is kind of a really long contract for services. And so I'm not finding it right now. But I think if it was going to apply again, we're below the standard, so it doesn't. Typically, I think if this was the city's agreement, rather than putting in a whereas clause, I would actually probably prefer just to have an actual written verification that is signed. It's kind of like a notary state block or something like that we would normally see at the end of an agreement. We'd have an exhibit that's a written verification that they aren't going to or that the vendor contractor is not currently owned or operated by the government of China and will not be. I don't know how they would even control that necessarily, but they can say that. And the same thing about they will not boycott the goods or services from Israel or Israel's territories. And I'll be honest, I'm maybe not as up to date on my world geography as I ought to. I'm not sure what territories Israel has. But anyway, I mean, I think that for me, I would actually want it to be a actual separate verification and not just language in the contract that's kind of signed. And I would want it to be specific so that it applies to the state. So the statute is very clear that we're doing that. But again, in this case, where the limit is 100,000, the contract's for 82,000 and change.
So
I think it's just, again, general background language that they've chosen to, I think, include, because I think they probably have some contracts. I don't know who they all do work for, but they may have contracts that are over 100,000. So it's just kind of, here's the agreement that we use, and then they go that direction. So
Thank you.
So on page 4, they do have a section K and L. They have a certification talking
John, you go to
about
page 4, please.
2 items. So I think it's covered right there.
yeah, and again, if it were me and we were tied to the $100,000 limitation, I would want it to be an actual written verification, not just language that's dumped into a contract. I mean,
The written verification could be anything. It's just a certified document saying you're not.
yeah, I mean, I think we're
It's
covered.
nothing.
But this is, it's when you count the exhibits and everything else. I mean, it's a 15-page word net. How far are we here? It's almost a 20-page document. And so I would actually prefer, if it was required, to have a separate.
I guess what we can do is just have Chris draft the document that we'll just have him sign that says that covers us. I mean, it's not dealing with contracts all the time. All we're doing is putting a piece of, if we have to, is putting a document together to cover our butt, saying that we've confirmed with these folks that they're not utilizing China and they're not boycotting Israel.
Mayor, I don't think there's a problem with the contract here tonight.
I know, I guess the discussion about the contract, about all this, probably needs to come at a later date on this, because we don't have all the information on that, if that's a concern.
Then aren't we approving the contract?
We're
tonight?
approving a contract that's under $100,000 that does not apply.
Exactly.
Oh, gotcha.
You see what I'm saying on that?
Okay.
If it was over 100,000, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Chris?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. So we can figure that out, since that's a new thing from the state legislature this legislative year for the China portion. The Israel one has what's been around since 2021.
And Mayor, just like I said, my preference would be to be very clear about it, but the way it is in here, it's specific in paragraphs K and L.
Yeah.
And so I think we're covered. We can say this is a written verification, especially where it's their document that they're verifying. And so I'm not concerned about any other statutory requirements that we might be missing.
Well, thank you for that discussion.
You guys have no idea, man. When we deal with Buy America stuff,
That's what this comes out of.
it's crazy. Right? Yeah, old world that I dealt with.
Mr. Mayor,
A lot
I
of
see this all the
stuff.
time in the federal government. So I'm just going to say I'd like to approve this contract for the Animal Welfare and Enforcement Agreement between STAR and the Humane Society.
And authorizing me to sign.
Yes.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one more question, and it's not about any of the language in it. It's more to do with the after hours. Are we going to still be able to use Star Vet as an after hours service maybe?
We may not have to, depending on the discussions that we have with them and their 24-hour patrol thing.
Curious if that was going to be part of the discussion.
Well, we do have a separate meeting that we're going to meet with Zach about in case there is a need, but there's also a possibility of utilizing the yard that we have over by the police station on the side. So for temporary
Just-
storage.
Was curious what that resolution was going to look like after hours.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson, Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, so I'll execute that contract and we'll get it over to them, and that, I believe it starts on October 1. You'll make our police very happy on that. On item 6B, the 946 South Main demolition agreement. We did put this out to bid. The next one up there, Sean. We did put this out to, No, the item B. That's C right there. Yep. We did put this out to bid to see if anybody wanted to purchase this unit and take it out of there, and no one provided any bids. And you guys authorized at the time to either sell it or demolish it. And so since we had no bids, we got the price to demolish it. Wouldn't happen until the end of October, I don't believe, on there. And this is the pricing to do that. It's $16,337. So we would need to entertain a motion to
Mayor,
authorize that. Yes, sir. Councilman Wheelock.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 946 South Main demolition agreement.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second that.
We got a motion, and a second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
are we doing the tool shed with that as well, or was there a different plan?
I think our guys can take that out.
Okay.
I think we just go with this because it's not very much to knock that down and haul it off for us. We can save money on that.
Good.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on the item 6C, the Pavilion Park bathroom, I got Mr. Tim here. He's going to come up. He's going to be here for the next 3. Ryan Morgan is out of pocket. I don't know where he's at. He's at some floodplain meeting somewhere.
He's in Spokane.
And he's in Spokane, yep. So we're looking at putting a bathroom facility over at Pavilion Park where we have where we're going to have the pickleball done this year, the splash pad, the dog park and whatnot. And Tim could talk to you about this system right here.
So this is the bathroom that we're going to add in addition to the other items that are already at the park. CXT is a prefab company. They pre-manufacture bathrooms, a variety of other structures. I've worked with them before, not necessarily for a bathroom, but for small buildings to cover other facilities. They are out of the Northwest. They have a factory in Nampa. So our unit will most likely be built here in the Valley, which is an appeal to us. We have selected the single user Cortez model, which has 2 facilities. There is a picture of it and a floor plan. If you keep scrolling down to page number 3, we have a couple of selections that we've made. So we have selected to use a split face block exterior. The entire structure is made out of concrete, the walls and the roof. And then the roof will have a faux cedar shake. And then we get to select the colors out of the large variety of colors that we had. Bob and I worked and picked a couple of colors, those 4 above. So it's the council and the mayor has a preference on the walls and roof where they can all be the same color. Those are the colors that we would give you to choose from. The cost of the facility, which is in a separate attachment, the quote that we received for the installed unit, they bring it out and they install it, is $130,000 about, and we estimate to run utilities, the sewer, water, power there, and construct a pad for the bathroom to sit on will be probably another $50,000 to $60,000. So all in will be under $200,000 to construct the bathroom at the Pavilion Park.
And these folks are part of that Sourcewell, I believe.
Yep, Sourcewell.
Correct? So this is something that doesn't have to go out to bid since they're already been bid with the state of Idaho. So,
I like the evergreen color.
so yeah, okay. So I'm glad you said that. So if you guys, we need to discuss the color. We don't get an hour-long discussion about colors, but you need to discuss a color and select. I'm giving you the choice to select the color
Oh,
if you
Mr.
so
Mayor,
choose.
I don't care.
Okay. David doesn't care.
That's my favorite answer.
I just thought hunter green should be at the other park. So Evergreen was the easy other answer.
So you guys, you've been out to the dog park, correct? So you know we're on the southwest corner, there's the grass corner there closest to the splash pad. That's the location that this unit would go into. And so we would have to do a little bit of work with some sidewalks to get people there.
So is that just north of the new parking lot?
Yes.
It's not just north, it's right between the dog park. Between the dog park's parking lot, the splash pad and the dog park itself.
Oh, okay.
Just off the edge of the
Yeah.
grass there.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
I'm curious regarding some of our city design standards, Mountain Modern for commercial buildings and things like that. How does this fit in with that? Or is there any consideration for this building to comply with that?
So
Sean, will you speak to that, please?
That ordinance does not require this type of facility to meet that standard. So it's completely up to you if you wanted to.
And that standard is also applies to our CBD, which this is not.
Well, CBD, and we've been applying it to our other commercial
Right.
uses, but I wouldn't consider this necessarily a commercial use. Again, you guys can discuss that on your own.
Yeah, I guess my only thought on that is consistency. You know, if part of the town is developing that way, but then the city doesn't, then it's like the rules apply to everybody but me. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't do this. I just think that's part of the conversation.
Well, this would be consistent with the style of restroom facility that we have at Hunters Creek Park currently.
and what about Blake Park?
And Blake
And
Park.
Blake Park too, yeah. So this just, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's consistent with what we have currently in place. And this unit would be heated, so it could be open during the winter months. Obviously, we'll have people at the dog park during the winter.
I think Blake Park looks a little bit more like this 3-unit that's at the top of the page.
No, I know, but I guess if you go back to the split block look
On page 3.
on page 3. I was pointing at you to do that. Forget that you.
I will direct.
So, I mean, you're right. I mean, there is a little bit more material on the outside at Hunters Creek or at Blake Park, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with this, honestly. I mean, it's going to be in the center of a park utilized for a restroom facility around all the other designs that we have for that park.
Tim, is it possible to do the coating along the bottom like this example?
Yes, it is possible to do that.
It's going to cost, you know what they added on, because didn't we talk about that?
It was a little bit of an additional cost, a couple $1,000s to do that. It is an option that we could do that though, if that's what we would like.
That could make it more in
Yeah,
compliance.
it'll
with
fall
that.
in line.
Right. I think that option, I mean, the split block looks a lot like you'd see at a campground. And I don't think it's a bad look at all. But the other seems to fit in better with what we're doing around town. So I'd be okay with spending a little bit more on that.
So in a motion, then I would, did you want, okay, just I'm going to clarify here, Councilman, just real quick. So the picture that he's showing up online right now, is that how you want it to look?
I would be okay with that design, yes.
Okay.
Or would you rather have the split block on the bottom, more similar to what's like at Blake Park? Blake Haven, if I remember, it has a split face block on the bottom and then a wood on the top half or top 2/3 or so.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I'm honestly, I'm good either way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I just like the two different materials on there. So I'm curious just about the usage and want to make sure that the 2 bathrooms is enough because of the future plans of that park with the basketball, pickleball. Was sure you have a reason why you picked 2.
I think 2 is economically viable for that, and I think it's plenty to use. I mean, you remember we would just throw out an extra porta potty. Otherwise, we wouldn't be putting 4 or 5 porta potties out there for that use.
To go from 2 to 4 was an additional $150,000, if I remember correctly.
And so thinking about the usage like at Blake Park, I think that one has a
2 in the men's and
stalls,
3 in the
right?
women.
Right. But there's also games that happen there. And so there's maybe heavier use, like more use. Okay. Just want to make sure we're thinking.
I don't think it's
big enough.
necessary in this, because in the future, if our plan is to put in that recreational style center, which is going to have additional bathrooms built into that as well. Right? That are exterior bathrooms for it.
Can these be relocated or are they permanent?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, they bring it out and
They can bring it out and install it on site. So my thought would be that they could relocate it if needed, but
Maybe it's something you could relocate to a smaller.
to another
in the
park
future,
at a later time.
At a larger one at a later date.
Oh,
Throwing
yeah.
that out.
Okay.
I'd like to buy a used bathroom. I'd like to buy a used bathroom.
Buy a used bathroom.
Yeah, there you go.
So we want to do, I guess, you want rock on the bottom or block on the bottom and then wood on the top. Just we need to decide that. I know you say you don't care. I guess we can have Tim go get additional. I mean, we want to approve this tonight. It's a 6-month lead time, I think is what we said, right?
5 to 6 months. Yeah.
So we can get this thing in the process. We get it ordered.
I'm a fan of consistency. So if Blake is block on bottom and
So follow Blake.
Yep.
All right. So okay. So in your motion, just make that comment if you don't mind.
Okay.
Or whoever's motion it is.
still have to pick colors, Councilman Wheelock.
And if you just want to leave it to,
I care less than when we started.
okay, we leave it to Tim to figure out the colors for us. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Like, but I would like maybe kind of similar to what's at Blake Park and Hunters Creek.
Okay.
So for the colors.
These colors seem the most consistent. The other colors were shades of brown and red.
Okay.
And I would add that when you make your motion, you give him a dollar figure. He said up to $200,000, which is actually less than that, but it's going to add up a little bit more just because of the changes we're going to make.
Well, Mayor Chadwick, I move that we approve and authorize the purchase of the Pavilion Park bathroom facilities utilizing park impact fees for an amount not to exceed $200,000 and direct staff and contractors to make color selections and material selections so that the facility is consistent with what is currently installed at Blake and Hunters Creek Parks.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Yep. Now I
Councilman
have
Wheelock?
discussion.
You got a color?
No, don't care about the color still. If you're making a motion to spend $200,000, is that for just the porta potty or is that for the porta potty and all the other
Porta potty and all the others.
installation parts to it?
Yeah.
So that we don't go 200,000 on the porta potty and another 50,000 on that.
Yeah,
Install.
my motion is inclusive of everything.
Okay. That's all I wanted to make sure of.
All right, we got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Jennifer?
Nope.
Okay, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson, Nielsen.
Aye,
All right, very good. Thank you. My motion carries.
that's a relief on Mayor.
You what? We're on to item 6D, the Pathway Master Plan Consultant Recommendation for Selection. We did have, so I have Tim talk to this, and then I know Councilwoman Jennifer was involved, and our planner Sean was involved with this as well, so they can answer questions as well.
Several weeks ago, we put out a SOQ, a state or a RFQ, a request for qualifications for a pathways master plan for the city. We received 3 SOQs, which is a statement of qualifications, and they are in your packet from the Kimley Horn team, the Land Group, and Brecken Land Design. After these 3 proposals were reviewed by the Transportation Committee and city staff, it is recommended that we award or enter negotiations with Kimley Horn for the city's master plan, pathways master plan.
And this is similar to when we did the CE&I for the Highway 44 project where we did the RFQ and there's no pricing involved yet. The pricing is all part of the negotiation process that will be brought back to you after we negotiate.
What's the potential for the pricing?
What'd they say?
So when we met with Kimley Horn and got some ideas of pricing with them, they gave us $135,000, but there's a couple of items that we were looking at potentially adding. I wouldn't say probably at the top end $150,000. They had some pretty useful tools for interacting with the public that we had not included in our original RFQ. They had some websites to get public input on the plan itself, which seemed pretty useful.
Thank you.
So I'll add to, this is the same consultant that we used for South of the River plan. Or we, South of the River, I think we used Logan
Simpson, yeah.
and Kimley. Yep. So they do have a.
Simpson is part of this Kimley Horn team.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So they do have experience, with STAR specific projects and concept planning. I reviewed all three and it was, I scored highest at Kimley Horn and, just leave it at that, I guess. But if anyone has questions about it, speak up.
Councilman Nielsen?
I move that we approve and authorize staff to enter into negotiations with Kimley Horn as recommended by the Star Transportation and Pathways Committee.
I'd second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We will begin that process shortly. Correct?
Yeah, we'll communicate with them and get that negotiation started.
Okay. Item 6E, we're on to the advertisement for bids. This is, thank God we're at this point finally. We're trying to get that pathway built this winter to the Star Middle School. Mr. Tim has been hard at work on designing that bad boy up there, that pathway. The development to the east or west of the pathway is actually going to be tiling that ditch. And so we just have to run the path from the middle school to Floating Feather and then east to the church is what we're going to do. And then a little bit west on a development that their plat expired. Correct?
Their plat has not expired.
Oh, it has not expired. I thought it was expired.
So we are running along Floating Feather from the Langtree Bungalows development, which is currently under construction. We're going to run the sidewalk across the frontage of what was applied for as the Glendora development.
All right, Glendora.
However, that developer has told me that he is not interested in developing that property at this time. So he's
Oh, I
going to
got
let
you.
he's
Sorry.
going to let his plat
Misspoke.
expire.
Yep, my apologies. I was thinking it was a plat expiration. So
It will expire.
So we want to put this puppy out to bid, and it would be bid on October 11th.
October 3rd. Oh, sorry, that's a pre-bid conference. Yes, October 11th is when it will be bid.
And then we will be bringing it back to the council for approval of the bids on October 18th.
The following week.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Councilman Wheelock?
So with them letting their development agreement expire, does that mean the city's funding that part, obviously? And if they decide to reapply, does it impact their finances? If they come back, do they come back and reimburse the city for what they would have?
I don't think so. And remember, this is coming from grant money also to build this pathway.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how that all works out.
But, are you referring to the Glendora?
Yes.
They didn't have a development agreement, so they had no obligation to.
Well, they would have had to build a sidewalk along Floating Feather. This is what he's talking about.
Correct. Yes.
That's what I was talking about, just the sidewalk that we're going to put in because they're not.
Well,
putting it in.
we'll either need to get a easement from them or it'll have to be in the right of way. So we haven't, I don't
Yeah,
think.
he's
we-
getting,
We'll have an easement from them.
Yeah, he's been
I'm
working.
discussing it with them.
But yes, we're not going to we're probably not get the money back. It's also, remember, this is grant money too, that's going to pay for this as well.
Well, I'm good with that. I was just curious how that was going to work. Just trying to be informed.
Yep.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
I'll move that we approve the advertisement for bids for the Floating Feather to Star Middle School pathway.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. We're on to item 7, which is adjournment. The best, oh, okay, I will do that. It is